Hi there, and welcome to the A-Level Geography Taster lesson. So, after you've completed your GCSE and you're considering taking Geography as an A-Level next year, so this lesson has been designed to give you a little taste of perhaps some of the things we will be studying that form part of the course. Now, if you enjoyed your GCSE, then I think you're going to really enjoy the A-Level. There are lots of different topics within it, really takes your geographical studies a stage further and prepares you nicely for university and to study the subject or related subjects in further education. Also, think about the other subjects you're choosing. The geography course contains topics that may link in the physical geography section to some of the sciences, such as biological sciences. Also, there are links to sociology, and even in this case, this lesson, links to media, among many other links to other parts of curriculum as well. So before we begin, I want you to make sure you've opened the Google document that accompanies the lesson first, because this contains the activities. If you download the document, you can type your answers directly onto it. You can either email me that document or you can print it off and bring it in the first lesson in September. So before you start, I want you to think about how many of these places you can identify. I want you to think about what makes them important, who they're important to, and why. This will then allow us to discuss and think about the factors that influence our sense of place and, of course, what a sense of place is. So pause the presentation now and complete the remember task on your worksheet. Once you've completed it, you can restart the presentation, continue with the lesson. Okay, well done. So let's now have a think about what some of these places are and why they might be important to different groups of people. So first image we've got, of course, is Jerusalem. Now this is a really important location to a number of religions, to Islam, to Judaism, and to Christianity. Second up, we've got Old Trafford, which is, of course, the home ground of Manchester United. Buckingham Palace, home of the Queen and famous London landmark and tourist attraction. Folkestone Academy, Folkestone's premier secondary school, obviously. We've got Machu Picchu, Inca ruins in Peru, and we've got Mount Everest, the world's highest mountain. And the reason we've looked at these particular examples is they illustrate what we mean by a sense of place. Now, these places aren't necessarily important to everyone, but each place will have some significance to different groups of people, and people will hold different opinions about them. So, as I mentioned, Jerusalem is important to 3 of the world's major religions, but their reasons for their religious pilgrimages there will vary. Also, those religions, such as Sikhism and Buddhism, won't hold as much of a significance for this location as Islam, Judaism, and Christianity. And then those people that maybe don't hold any specific religious beliefs, it will also then not have a significance or as big an importance to them. Old Trafford, if you're a Man United supporter, this is an incredibly important place for you. However, if you support a different football team, Man City, for example, or you're more of a rugby fan, or not interested in team sports, maybe more interested in mountaineering or extreme sports, then this place will not have any significance. The place that will have more significance would be Mount Everest, which is considered by many mountaineers to be the pinnacle in climbing the highest, most dangerous peaks in the world. Likewise, if you spent time at Folkestone Academy, your perception of this place will be very different for someone who hasn't been to the school, or perhaps is joining sixth form from another school. Also, depending on your time there, that will influence your opinion or your feeling about this place. If you've had a positive experience, you're going to have a very positive view. If it's not been so positive, then your view is obviously going to change and become more negative. So when we're talking about a sense of place, we're talking about how people feel, their emotional kind of attachment and their view and opinion on a specific location. So in geography, when we talk about a sense of place, we're talking about a concept that refers to the way in which we perceive or think about a place. Now, we'd like to think these perceptions are based on reality, and the fact is that we have learned in school that give us a clear and accurate idea of what this place is like. However, if we haven't been there, so what we would call a known place, can we really have a clear idea of what a place is like? Well, the truth of the matter is that even if we have been to a place, our perceptions are continually being influenced by other factors. So, for example, our emotions, how we feel about a place, our experience there personally, our beliefs, the media. So, reading something in social media, maybe a review on Trustpilot, TripAdvisor, seeing a news story, depending whether it's positive or negative, will give you a different view of the place. A particular television program, documentary, a film, a book will all influence how we feel about a particular place. And also our friends and families. The locations where our friends and families are located mean a place automatically takes on more significance than another one. But then when we visit other places, we'll also change our perceptions as we'll start to compare these places we visit and weigh them up against each other, matching up positives and negatives, and maybe deciding which one we like more than the other. Now, we're not going to go through all of the different factors that influence our sense of place or any other concepts related to this topic. I'm going to focus on a couple of linked areas. So we're going to start off by looking at the example of media places. So these are places that we may not have been to, but we've built up a view or perception of through books, film, or television. So a really good example of this is, of course, the Harry Potter books. So J.K. Rowling used a number of places across Britain as the setting for the story. Some of them exist, some of them don't, but are loosely based on places that exist. And so you can go and visit the locations where they were filmed, although they don't look like the locations in the film, they are present in the real world. So a really good example of this would be going to King's Cross Station and trying to find platform 9 3/4. Now, platform 9 3/4 obviously doesn't exist because we're not wizards and we can't make our way through the pillar into the platform. But that hasn't stopped millions of people visiting the area to get a photo taken, to the extent that now, just off of where the main platforms are, there is now a Harry Potter shop, and next to that shop is a sign to the platform 9 3/4 with a trolley disappearing into the wall that you can then go and have your photo taken against to look like you're making your way to Hogwarts. Now, lots of people visit this place and have very strong emotions and connections to it, although technically the place they're trying to visit isn't actually real. So our sense of place is not only influenced by reality, but also by our own imaginations and places that can also be created in media such as film and television and books. So now we've discussed the idea of what sense of place is, and we've introduced the idea of media places, I want you to now have a go at activity 1 on the Google document worksheet. Think about what the term reality means and write down your own definition of this concept. And then think about a known place, a place that you have visited or experienced. So, for example, Folkestone. You live here, it's a known place to you, probably the place you've got the most experience, the strongest views about. Then outline your sense of this place. What are its key characteristics? So, for example, its location. What's the physical landscape like? What are the landmarks that make it unique as a place? What are your own personal feelings, views, and opinions about this place? Pause the presentation now. Work your way through those activities. Once you've finished, come back to the presentation, and then we'll talk a little bit more about media places and then link that to the idea of hyperreality and ecology of fantasy. Right, excellent. So you've made it through the first activity. Hopefully you're starting to build up an idea of kind of what we're talking about here in the fact that our sense of place is influenced by all of the things we see and experience. So move on to activity 2. We're going to explore a little bit more now about how media may influence the way we feel about a place. So I want you to look at the image on the right. So this is a far place, a place that probably a lot of you haven't been to. I want you to describe your sense of this place based on the image that you can see. So look at the picture of the Amazon rainforest and describe what you see and how you feel about that place. Is it somewhere you want to visit? Is it somewhere you're a bit unsure about? Once you've written down what your sense of place is based on the image, I then want you to go to the link, not the link here on the presentation, but the link in the instructions for the lesson assignment. Click on the Jungle Official Trailer 2017 Daniel Radcliffe Adventure Movie. Watch the clip. Then I want you to write down whether your perceptions changed. So compared to the picture, Has watching that clip changed how you feel about the Amazon rainforest, and do you still want to visit it or not? Pause the presentation now, complete activity 2. Excellent work. Right, so let's move on now to talk about this in a little bit more detail. So we can then start to look at the sense of media places, the sense of kind of made up places, and slightly more of an extreme. So some organisations have taken the idea of media places a stage further by bringing places from fairy tales and adventure stories that exist in our imaginations into reality. So this concept is called hyperreality. So this is where conditions are artificially created that blur the lines between what is real and what is actually fiction. So there's no clear distinction between the two. We get lost in the idea that although this place isn't really a real place, it's a theme park or a movie set, we feel like it's somewhere that we are quite familiar with and that we're quite happy to be there, or somewhere that we actually physically want to go and visit, go on holiday to, go on a day trip to. So in order to discuss this, we're going to look at a few examples. So this is a picture of Hobbiton in New Zealand. Now, New Zealand's a lovely country, beautiful countryside, but tourism has increased since the release of the Lord of the Rings and Hobbit films because people now want to go and experience it. The sets are still there in the landscape. People want to go, and fans of the books and fans of the film want to go and feel what it's like to be in the Shire. This place doesn't really exist in the sense that it's not physically a place that people live and work. It exists as a kind of theme park, as a visitor attraction, yet in many of our minds it will be considered to be an actual place that we hold quite significant, has quite important sort of emotional value to us that we want to visit. Theme parks are particularly good examples of the way in which this works. So many of us have grown up playing with Lego, using our imagination to create spaceships and various other adventure scenarios and models through the use of Lego. So Legoland has brought many of those ideas to life, and you can go in there and immerse yourself, and it's become a place you want to visit, a place you kind of want to go. I want to go and see the Lego pirate ship. I want to go and see the Lego Star Wars sets. I want to go and see the Viking world, etc., etc. So although not actually a real place in the sense that it's a town or a city, it is a place that holds significance to people and can have a very strong emotional connection to fans of the construction toy. One of the most famous examples, though, and probably one that is most successful at doing this, is of course the Disneyland theme parks, such as Disneyland Paris. So theme parks such as Disneyland also imply the idea of ecology of fantasy. Now, this is similar to hyperreality, but rather than just blurring the lines and kind of having an area that you can visit where you can kind of tell that you're not in a real place, you are visiting a movie set or you're visiting something you've read about, this takes it a stage further. So using quite clever methods such as the way the music's positioned, having different worlds, different themes that the sounds don't cross over in, you are drawn into a world, a submersive environment where it's very easy, especially if you stay in one of the hotels there, you forget that you are actually visiting a theme park. You feel like you are visiting an entirely different world, which is actually just geared up to try and get you to spend money and get involved in the fantasy and excitement of being a child again, seeing all your favourite Disney characters, going on an adventure and just generally having fun. So it's quite an interesting concept in the sense that each world, each land has very different themes, very different characters, very different music. They blend seamlessly from one to the other without the sounds crossing over. Whenever you go on a ride, the ride will finish and take you out through a shop to immerse you even more into the excitement and fun and pantomime that is Disneyland. You will meet characters who you know are people dressed up, but you immerse yourself so deeply that you go and get their autographs and you go and visit them to get that experience of being in a completely different land. So really quite a kind of interesting and fascinating way in which our sense of place is being totally kind of controlled and influenced by media and advertising and various other means. So now that you've been introduced to those ideas of hyperreality, I want you to pick one of the web links. So there's a web link to the Book Hobbiton movie set tour New Zealand, Disneyland official site, and legoland.co.uk. Pick one. I want to make notes identifying the methods that the organisations or attractions use to create a sense of hyperreality. So how do they create this world that blurs the lines between real places and made up places? For your challenge activity, select one of the other examples and then compare how each organisation or attraction has created a sense of hyperreality. Have they used similar tactics? Have they used different ones? And why do you think this is? So pause the presentation now, come back to it when you've completed activity 4. Okay, excellent. So we've really kind of explored some quite interesting and deep concepts, which we will go into in more detail when we cover them again as part of the actual course. But I'm hoping I'm starting to spark your interest in the subject. So this moves us on to activity 3, start thinking about the term ecology of fantasy. So I want you to find the term ecology of fantasy and use examples to outline how theme parks employ the concept of ecology of fantasy to immerse the consumers in a world where they will happily spend time and money. The challenge then is to explain how you think people feel about these places, what are their perceptions, what is their sense of these places, do these ideas match the reality of what the place is actually like? So pause the presentation now, complete activity 3. Okay, excellent work. So I'm going to leave you with a bit of homework to do. So I hope you've enjoyed the lesson, found it interesting. I'm hoping that you're beginning to kind of really see how different the topics are in A-level geography, and really looking forward to seeing lots of you signing up and joining the course next year. So here's an example of an exam question to give you a bit of a taster for how the sort of questions linked to are kind of similar to, in some cases, to the GCSE questions, as well as sort of showing you how much sort of further you might need to take some of your understanding that you've already got. So the question asks you to assess the usefulness of looking at qualitative data such as opinions from review websites like the ones below in helping us understand people's perceptions of place. So this is a question worth 6 marks. It's from an exam paper. So we've got some reviews of Blue Water Shopping Centre. You need to read through those and then you need to assess. So remember, assess means you need to write the positive and negative points or the advantages and disadvantages of using this method and then come to a conclusion on stating whether you think it is useful. So by the term usefulness, is the use of qualitative data to find out about people's perceptions of place a useful method? All right, so good luck. I look forward to reading those when you join the course in September. If you want to email them to me before, then feel free and I'll have a look at them. You can upload them to the Google Classroom, email them to me on Miss Turner, she'll forward them on. Once you've completed the lesson, please download and save a copy of the course overview as well to give you an overview of the different topics that we'll study and how the course will be assessed as well. All right, have a great summer. Hope you enjoyed the lesson and see you soon.